on that note, I will bring in Nick. Let's chat. Hey, Nick, you are live with Promise and Alyssa. What did you want to talk with us about tonight?
Hey, thanks for taking me. And well, I guess I'll just skip all of your mom jokes I was going to open with. But
we might get to them in this call. You never know.
who knows? Yeah. But no, what I wanted to talk about is I've been a fan of the line in your show for a while, and I came across a cast episode, and a caller came in. I forget his name, wouldn't name him anyway, but talking about basically how it's kind of with the Me Too movement, how all men were painted with a broad brush, and it was a very respectful conversation both ways. But Alyssa, you brought up a point that that the thing is that the reason women react so strongly to this is because these are women who are in danger from men who would do this, and it's up to like people like me, men who could be an ally, to work from within. And I agree. The thing is, it seems to me that that exact same line of argument could be used to defend people who have been harmed by terrorists to become Islamophobic, because they have been harmed by terrorists before, and not all terrorists are Muslim, but a lot are, and so they can get painted with a broad brush like that. And the thing is, when everyone who might have, like, I've seen what the terrorists can do personally. I don't want to get too much into my past because it's not really relevant, but I never became Islamophobic, and I actually had Muslims working for me, and were great doing what we did. So, but if no one ever changes their mind by getting yelled at, and in the same way that men do have to change from within, and I agree they do, but at the same time, people, the very good representatives of religion, have to change things from within too. And I say that also as a former theist, now an agnostic, and I know I didn't change because it was the atheists who were yelling at me. It was the other side that was part of it. If that makes any sense, I hope I was clear.
I'm not sure that we want to go with the analogy of Muslims versus Muslims that are terrorists, because that is such a teeny tiny percentage. Whereas I don't know a single woman that hasn't dealt with sexual harassment firsthand, or abuse or something at the hands of a man. That doesn't mean that all men are doing that. That's not what I'm saying. But it is significantly more prevalent. Like, I don't think that's a good comparison. So if you're okay with it, I think we should just drop that comparison and just talk about the issue at hand, which we can, which is, I hear you, you don't want to generalize men. And with the whole yelling thing, like, yeah, I've never advocated for yelling at anybody. That's not my thing. And when I have conversations with my friends who, honestly, probably I have more friends that are men than anything else. That's just how my social circle works right now. I'm not yelling at them. Like, even if I say, like, okay, that's sexist, like, we have a conversation about it. So I don't think any of us here are advocating for that. What I've always said is, in conversation, and I do this when talking about theists, I will make conversation like generalizing, saying, if your God does this, this, and this, your God is an asshole. Well, that comes off as really aggressive and intense. I'm not going and sitting at a table with one individual theist and talking to them the way that I do in a TikTok, where I just like post words or something. Like, I think there's nuance to these things and these conversations and how we have them. But if I'm talking online and I'm trying to raise awareness about something, and I'm going to say, hey, there is a problem, and it's related to men, I'm not going to sit and take the time and be like, except for these ones and these ones. If it's not you, it's not you. The best allies I know are not worried about, like, well, were you talking about me in that moment? No. Or if you're not the person, if you're not doing the things that we're talking about that are being done, then you don't have to worry about it. That's not what we're talking about. So I think I agree there is nuance to it. I agree that there are ways that we can engage people better and to encourage people to be allies. But at the end of the day, my last concern is whether I'm hurting the feelings of the people that I am most consistently feeling preyed upon by, if that makes sense.
I understand. And I guess I'm not saying I have any solutions here at all. All I'm saying is that if basically, and I understand that, you know, when you talk to people, you know, one-on-one is very different than when you talk on TikTok or online or something. And unfortunately, the worst comes out when people are online. I'm not saying you, but I'm saying it happens with a lot of people. And but if that's the only exposure people are getting is then it could just turn people off. And I don't have answers.
Yeah, to me, if someone is that sensitive to the conversation, then I'm not sure if they're ready to be, like, if they're going to actually be a helpful ally anyways. Like, if they come across somebody online and they're like, well, the way that girl is talking about men makes me not want to care about this problem. Like, that to me shows a sign of not being able to really think about the issue, because I hear people all the time, even fellow atheists, do their activism in a way where I'm like, absolutely not. I do not like that. I would never do that. And yet I agree with what they're saying at the core of what they're saying. And I'm able to take that and be like, cool, that person doesn't have to be where I get that information from. I can find other resources for this because I maybe don't prefer their style, but that doesn't mean that everything else goes away, because that feels a lot like tone policing, where it's like, well, now I don't have to care about this issue because I don't like how they said it, or I don't like how emotional they seemed, or I don't like that they seem like they don't even like men, and that hurts my feelings. I'm not saying you're saying that, but that, to me, that is the smallest issue in this whole thing. The biggest issue is that that there is a serious problem with men being predators and abusers, and we have to confront that. So obviously that's not all men. I'm married to a man. I don't think that it's all men. Like I said, a lot of my friends are men, but I can have these conversations with them, and I'm not having to soften the blow for them so that they can care about the fact that this is a problem. In fact, most of them are more willing to talk about it than I am, because sometimes I'm just kind of over it. So I guess if you're saying like, hey, should we all have a conversation about everyone softening their tone so that more men want to help out? My answer is no. I don't want to put my energy there. That's not where I feel like the energy needs to go. I think if somebody doesn't like the style in which somebody advocates for something that does matter, then they should just find somebody else that's advocating for it. That's what's beautiful about this world, is we have a lot of advocates and activists.
Okay, and I'm not saying I was personally offended by anything that certainly any
Yeah,
of you said,
I'm not
or anything
saying,
that
I'm not saying you did.
Yes. Just sometimes the overall tone can just turn people off. I'm not saying that people are sensitive about that. I have no sympathy for someone who abuses women in any way. Okay, so that's not, I mean, ever. But it, again, I don't have answers here. That's just something that I just saw that episode, probably about a week ago, and I was thinking about it, and I just wanted to talk to you about it and see just basically how you reacted to my reaction, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah.
I think that it's an interesting thing. I think about this a lot because, and I get a lot of heat for this because I think that there is some element of it where if we want to create real change, it's hard to tell men who are acting out of anger and out of ego to fuck off and hope that they change their mind, because that doesn't really feel aligned. Like, that's not usually how people make change, is by telling them to like fuck off. And I'm using that phrase to demonstrate the tone in which a lot of these. So I get that. And it's also a situation where women have also figured out that they don't need men. For the first time, we have generations of women who are out earning their partners. And we have a generation of women who are, a big chunk of them are going to be in their 40s, unmarried, don't want kids, and don't plan to do either of those things. And so it sort of is like a put up or shut up situation where for years and years and years, for all time, I mean, I guess in recent history, men have been able to, at least cis white men have been able to do whatever they want. And so now we are sort of taking back some of that energy and doing what we want. And then it's hard to then say, well, it's hard because a part of me is like, I don't really want to extend myself to people where we had to figure out going to therapy. We had to figure out, unraveling all of the trauma that we've inherited from like these experiences with men and whatever. We've had to figure that out. We had to fight for the right to vote, fight for the right to get a bank account, like all of these things that it was out of a system created to oppress us. We figured it out. And so now it's like, I don't want to climb the ladder and then burn it behind me. But at the same time, it's like, we've been saying for the longest time, go to a fucking therapist, like unpack it, figure it out. And it's like, there's a frustration that comes along with feeling like we figured out a way to balance the scales even a tiny bit. And now we still have to like pull up all of the cishet white men who are feeling disenfranchised by this. And it's very like, equality feels like oppression for people who've never felt it before. It gives me that vibe. It's like many times it feels like it's a situation where people are experiencing equality and they're experiencing what women and minorities and the LGBTQ community had to figure out, building their own communities that are safe spaces for them, finding support with their mental health, like all of these things that we all figured out because we had no choice. So that's where the frustration comes from. And at the same time, I'm not super interested in having it be a fight fire with fire situation either. So there has to be like some middle ground. And I think we all struggle to find it, especially on social media where like the things that we share are to get people, like it's supposed to like, stop your thumb from scrolling, and it's devoid of nuance much of the time because it's a social media post and you have like, 100 characters to make it work.
Yeah. And one last thought on all of this is we've already lived through a time in history, basically all of it, where we asked nicely and we were sweet.
Yeah.
And we tried to be extra sensitive to the nice ones, to the good ones. And that didn't work. That's not historically ever been what's worked. And I'm not saying the opposite is what works. I'm not saying being an asshole is what works, but maybe caring less about tone and style and instead doing the work and doing the advocacy and demanding equality and our rights, and that we stop being, assaulted. When I'm doing that, like, I'm not sitting like, let me just say this so nice though, so that they want to help me. It's similar to if I am trying to, stop an emergency situation and I need help from somebody. Let's say there's a fire and I need help putting the fire out. I'm not going to be like, hi, I know you didn't start this fire, so don't worry about it at all, but I would really love if you would come help me. Like, you might even get hey, get over here. There's a fire. I need help quick. This isn't like the best example ever, but you're getting what I'm saying. Like when we're addressing an issue, if we're going to stop and be like, no, we need to take the time and figure out how to get our messaging exactly perfect, and let's be nice and make sure we don't scare off potential allies. If anything, I kind of would rather, like I said, I those aren't allies that I think are going to be very helpful if they're that easily, quote, turned off. Because we tried the being nice thing. We tried asking nicely. We tried making sure we, didn't generalize too much, and it got us nowhere. In fact, the Me Too movement was really helpful in that it finally started bringing some things to light, because everyone was saying Me Too, because statistically it is everyone. And it would have been silly if we took the time to put like hashtag Me Too, but probably not you if you're reading this. So don't feel too bad and don't worry about it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it. And again, I wasn't, you know, despite what the comments are saying, I wasn't buttered by what you said at all. I just, it just got me thinking, and I would really want to explore with you a little more. And I see that, and I really like how you, I think it was you, Alyssa, who said that you want to make sure you get the point across, but fighting fire with fire isn't always a good thing either, because a lot of times you just get more fire, and nothing gets solved. But yeah, I mean, don't feel bad about hurting an asshole's feelings, because they're still going to be an asshole. But I guess, you know, again, I don't have any alternatives, any answers really. I'm just trying to do my best here, and treating everyone with the respect they deserve. But I just want to get more people to be the same, I guess. Sorry, I can't end in a more
It's hard.
note, you know? Yeah.
No, it's hard. And I think that everyone's struggling to find balance in it, because like we're all trying to favor like what's gonna bring us progress, while also not being like painful for the people who are having to like create the progress, you know? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I appreciate this call, and I appreciate the conversation. Yeah, no, I appreciate the conversation, because it's going to be an ongoing one, I think, especially during a presidency like this. And there's been a lot of, I need to watch that adolescence docuseries actually, because I know, or I don't know if it's docuseries or that show, because it's all about like the new generation of young men who are growing up in this environment, and like the loneliness epidemic and all that kind of stuff. I think it's on Netflix. If you haven't checked that out, that might be an interesting like extension of this conversation, and I'm going to watch it too. But yeah, this will be an ongoing journey, an ongoing conversation.
Well, I appreciate both of your time. Thank you. Big fan also, by the way. So thank you.
Thanks, Nick, for calling. Have a good evening.
Yep. You too.
Bye. Okay. We have kind of a quiet show today.
It's a chill vibe. It's still been good, interesting calls and conversations. And I know the chat wasn't happy with Nick, but I think those are important conversations to have. And
totally,
Nick wasn't like double, you know, we've had callers where they'll be like, no, you're wrong. You know, Nick wasn't doubling down. And I think Nick will probably, I hope, take what we had to say and think about it. So I think these are good conversations. There are people that are having these thoughts that are afraid to call in and ask, and then they don't get to hear a new perspective that could have their minds change. So important conversations, and I'm good with it.
Wow, that was a great clip we just watched. Hey, Eve, what should the people do now?
Leave a comment, click like, subscribe. Patreon.com/ does that say call the line?
Yeah. But if you could have made, we could just make it a little more natural. On the next clip, the outro will be much better.